I think that's enough of religious poetry. I'm gonna go.
Oh.
I'm gonna go the exact opposite direction.
Really?
Right? Yeah. I'm gonna hit 1950s, and I'm gonna hit beat poets in
Ooh.
America. I'm talking specifically here about Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg. I mean, so beat poetry was a very particular kind of.
Are we doing a bit of this?
Yeah, it was that live rhythmic, quite often mind. You just kind of wrote as the mind spoke to you, and yeah, so quite often they wrote on spools of paper that they just kind of write the whole thing. But Allen Ginsberg was sort of a very big inspiration for that whole beat poet scene. Bukowski and all of them, and he published a poem called Howl in 1955 that prompted then President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who, let me remind you, is a former general, right, to say, "It is the first time writing has ever made me weep."
Wow.
Yeah. It's considered the first commercial smash hit poem in America, and it's even had a line quoted on the cover of the Wheaties cereal box. Like, it became this absolute kind of phenomenon, made Allen Ginsberg and the entire beat poetry scene like viable in one poem. Like, he released it and had just created the thing, and that's my fact.
Well, it's awesome. It's whether it's true or not, it is awesome. What I love about, I've got some controversial opinions, and one of them is that when all is said and done, I do think the United States of America is the greatest country on earth.
I
Amen,
mean,
brothers.
basically,
No, you know why I say it.
what you are is someone in, say, a small
We're pretty
village,
cool.
a small,
We're number two.
a small village in the south of Russia, talking about the Roman Empire, at the end of its days. Yes, the Roman Empire is at the end of its days, but it's still pretty cool compared to this tiny village in the south of Russia.
Look, I don't like the polarization that's happening in America, but
I love it. I love to see them suffer. I love the collapse.
No, but why I think it's the greatest country on earth, man, is because of the diversity. They've had to get along from such diversity, and that's extraordinary. And what I love about what they've done throughout their history, especially the 20th century, is these little scenes that were created, like the San Francisco scene of
right. So this is very much, this is kind of leads into that San Francisco scene, because a lot of these poets moved to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Off the back of this scene.
Yeah.
And started creating the beginnings of what would become later like folk and this kind of revolutionary attitude. And yeah, so
but it started with the essence of the art, man.
Started with 1955's poem Howl by Allen Ginsberg, and it started instantly. He released it, and it started this entire new revolution.
Right. So your fact is that
that's my fact. Yeah, and as I say, the president
quoted on a Wheaties box. The president said it made.
Yeah, it became this massive commercial.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say it's true. I'm gonna say it's true.
It's false.
Oh.
Yeah. In fact, the American government handled it in the exact opposite way.
They battened down.
So what happened is, Allen Ginsberg knew a guy by the name of Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who was a bookstore owner and a Bitpart publisher, and Allen kind of was friends with him and told him that I finished this work of art, and Lawrence said, "Well, send it to me. I'm going to publish it. Sight unseen. Of course I'm going to publish it. You're a genius." And Allen Ginsberg sent it to him, and they printed the first copies in England, and they had them sent. They had 500 copies sent over to America, and as customs kind of cleared these 500 copies to be released, the American government seized them, and they arrested Lawrence Ferlinghetti and
good grief, man.
Shigeyoshi Murao, who was his business partner from the publishing house City Lights, and they had them up on obscenity charges. And there was an obscenity charge trial that was published. At the time, Life magazine used to do these kind of photo stories, and they did this photo story of the trial, which was pretty much like it being on TV now.
Wow.
Like it's the same thing. And what happened during the trial was that all these academics and poets and critics, they kind of came up and defended Howl as being this work of art. They were saying it's an important work of art. It's not just obscenity. and after weeks, they won, and City Lights was cleared of the obscenity charges, and the guys were released, and that particular thing became the catalyst for Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller and D.H. Lawrence's Lady Chatterley's Lover being unbanned in America. And then off the back of the kind of the sheer publicity that Howl had received from this trial, it sold thousands of copies and did indeed become a commercial success. But Dwight D. Eisenhower never commented on it. It didn't ever make it on the Wheaties box. But yeah, like it was this. I mean, it went on.
Lies are great, Warren. Don't put yourself down. You're a great liar. Make no mistake, Warren.
That book, which was called Howl and Other Poems, went on to sell millions of copies. It was translated into at least 22 languages that I can see. It was.
Did he become a big voice in the...
So Alan Ginsberg became the main voice of the Beat Poetry Society and a Deep Society. It's your Dead Poets Society.
Dead Poets.
Yeah. It's for that Beat Poets kind of movement, and a lot of people did move indeed to San Francisco and LA to become beat poets and to join that kind of poetry scene, with the berets and the black polo necks and the glasses and things. So it's a poem, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the poem because it is a genius poem.
How?
It's dedicated to his friend called Carl Solomon, I think. Carl Solomon. And Carl Solomon was sent to a mental institution, and despite the fact that Alan thought he was a genius.
Oh wow.
And it's broken into three pieces. And in the first piece, it's basically about people acting crazy in America. And it's about essentially that first part is about how if you're dealing with America, this broken system that is America, the sane people are the ones who go insane. It's the people who, if you're not going insane under this broken system, then and so the second section is a lot more personal, and the third section is he's actually speaking to his friend Carl. He's talking directly to Carl. But it's very aggressively kind of anti-American society. And it's very aggressively revolutionary, which is why obviously they called it why they called it obscene, and why they wanted to ban it. And this is 1955, so bear this in mind. It is
McCarthy trials and stuff.
So there's all these things that America's trying to become more conservative at the time. So you maybe a message for America now, as it's trying to become more conservative. There's this moment that kind of pushes it on, because it's the poem's a tribute to rebellious artists and thinkers and society, and it depicts the kind of crushingly conformist attitudes at the time as being like greedy, violent, oppressive systems, and it encourages people, and it says to them, like, if you are sane in this environment, you fight back, you kind of and it's the poem that begins something along the lines of, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's like, I've seen the best of my generation slouching through the streets of, it's this kind of, it's a phrase that we sort of know. But here, let me read you just kind of four little lines. It's four little lines. And it's, who broke down crying in white gymnasiums, naked and trembling before the machinery of other skeletons? Who bit detectives in the neck and shrieked with delight in police cars for committing no crime but their own wild cooking pederasty and intoxication? Who howled on their knees in the subway and were dragged off the roof waving genitals and manuscripts? Who let themselves be fucked in the arse by saintly motorcyclists and screamed with joy? So that's the angle, is who responded to this fucking oppression by writing, by fighting, by creating art, by, and it literally became an inspirational moment that inspired people to put their own stuff
and say it like it is, and exactly use the vulgar expression to draw attention and to express yourself.
As I say, it's quite an aggressive and rhythmic. For me, the defining line from that bit that I read is that were dragged off roofs, waving genitals and manuscripts. It's the manuscripts. They're not just being crazy. It's delivering the art with your crazy,
Rebel
fighting
with a
this thing.
cause.
That's
Rebel
right.
with a cause.
Yeah, and that's the angle there. But anyway, so that finally a lie of my own, right? A lie of my own.